Welcome back, class 10, your physical education class. You are studying chapter 8, prevention of injuries. In the last class, we have learnt about warming up and cooling down in respect to prevention of injuries. Today, we'll learn how fitness of participants influence injuries and how a conditioned trainee or athlete enhances his or her performance and decreases the risk of injury. Anyway, fitness of the participants. A conditioned trainee, a trainee, that means an athlete who is conditioned, well trained, well conditioned body, or athlete enhances, increases his or her performance, decreases the risk and severity of injury to occur, and may be able to return to activity sooner after an injury that a non-conditioned trainee or athlete. What does it mean? Suppose an injury occurs. An athlete who is trained, well conditioned, will be able to come back and will be able to resume the training much faster than a non-conditioned trainee or athlete. Sports persons or athletes must be conditioned to able to withstand physical demands of their sports. That means sports persons or athletes should be able to withstand the physical demands of their sports. The fitness components of conditioning consists of cardiovascular endurance, how your body can endure cardiovascular pressure. Body composition, what is the muscle mass composition, what is the fat composition. Flexibility, what is the range of motion. Strength and power, muscular endurance, speed and agility. These are the various components on which the fitness of an athlete depends. Each of the components must be addressed completely to condition the sports person or athlete. Conditioning is a series of biological adaptations. Beautiful. How your body is adapting or changing biologically in various areas or in various scenario. For example, the trainee or athlete does not attain high levels of strength all at once. All of a sudden, today you will train, tomorrow you will be an excellent athlete. It doesn't happen overnight. The athlete or trainee stresses the muscles, tortures the muscles, and becomes a little stronger. The process is repeated over and over again until the desired effect is reached. This is a long-term process and consists of an off-season program. That means when the athlete is not playing professionally, pre-season program just before the professional season starts, and competition season program. That means while the athlete is competing. The coach must have an artist's feel for maximizing the rate of biological adjustments. That means the coach, whoever is training the athletes, should be well aware enough to change or make the maximum use of biological adjustments in the body. Failure to move in a systematic and progressive manner may result in overconditioning and overuse injuries and undertraining, which does not utilize the athletes or trainees' true potential. That means if the training is not done in a proper way, the athlete may suffer from overuse or overtraining or undertraining. In both the cases, it is not desirable. The coach is critical to the condition. The coach is critical to the conditioning process. The coach is critical in conditioning the athlete. Number 3, use of correct equipment and maintaining equipment. If the correct equipment is used and if the equipment is maintained properly, chances are that the sports injury will be reduced. Equipment should be worn if required or needed. It should be worn. You should wear it. This includes mouthpieces, shin pads, orthotics, eye protection, things like that. The equipment should be carefully cleaned and maintained. Injury may occur if the equipment breaks down or improperly fits. A running shoe is still looks good after running 50 miles a week for 1 year may be internally broken down, allowing for increased shock throughout the body. Externally, the training shoe might look good, but internally it might be broken because it has been used. So you have to change it. Correct footwear is critical for sports. A pair of tennis shoes is not appropriate for vertical forces in running. Running shoes are not appropriate for lateral forces and back forces in tennis. So shoes, training shoes are very, very important while you are training. Previous injuries require preventive measures such as ankle braces, orthotics, which is artificial support, or proper size grip for racket sports. Equipment includes the sneakers, which are light canvas shoes with soft rubber soles, cotton or nylon shorts, wool or cotton socks, gloves, helmets, and braces. One should choose the footwear according to the surface. If the equipment cannot be repaired properly, it should be thrown out, not handed down. It should not be passed down to somebody. If equipment is broken or if the equipment is not properly working, it should be thrown away. Any equipment or attire not in use must be removed from the competition area to avoid tripping over it. Any equipment which is not being used should be removed from the area. One can trip and fall. Many injuries happen in this way. Okay. The equipment in use must be placed where there is no potential of it to become an injury risk. The equipment should be placed in an area where there is no risk of tripping and falling. Equipment used during training or competition must be adequate. It should be adequate, well designed and effective. One should check the equipment for sharp edges, cracks, etc. every time before using it. Surfaces of tracks have different characteristics. Grass surfaces tend to be more slippery than synthetic tracks when wet and harder when dry. Using appropriate lightings is also necessary because the lightings may affect the judgment of distance, the perception of color, and the athlete's visual accuracy. Personal clothing may be faulty or insufficient. Nylon clothing is often cheaper than natural fiber, but is bad in hot weather because it does not breathe properly. If you are wearing a nylon shirt during the summer days, you will feel hot. But if you wear a cotton shirt, you will feel the heat, but you will not feel that much because the cotton fabric allows air to pass in. So it is known as, it's a breathable fabric. Now, another thing for prevention of injury is proper knowledge of rules of the games of sports. Each sport has certain rules to obey. Obey means follow. Obey the rules to prevent injury. One of the intentions of the rules are to protect the athletes from injuries. It also inhibits means stops or arrests athletes from injuring others. Rules govern things such as access to working safety gear, including helmets, padding, and mouth guards. Rules of conduct, which includes illegal blocks and tackles, are also enforced to keep the athletes healthy. Rules of the game need to be enforced and sometimes modified for children. Number 5, wearing the recommended protective gear. All protective gears such as helmets, gloves, pads, shin guards, and mouthpieces, that means teeth guard and abdomen guard, should be worn during the practice as well during matches to avoid injuries. It is necessary to wear the guards while the athlete is practicing, and obviously it is worn during the competition. Every game or sports have their own protective gear to prevent injuries, and it should be worn to avoid injuries. Number 6 is importance of resting between workouts. The body repairs its own tissues, but if it requires its off time every day. The average trainee or an athlete requires 8 to 10 hours of sleep each day to recuperate, that means to come back, to rejuvenate sufficiently for the next training session. Rest plays a very important role in the training program. For an athlete to improve further from his or her previous best performance, he or she will have to plan the rest period constructively. The duration and frequency of the rest period will depend on how the principles of trainings were applied. So it all depends. Rest period is necessary, but there is no fixed rule. It all depends from athlete to athlete. It all depends on the sports which a person is playing, and it also depends on the intensity of the training program. Consistent training on a reasonable level should be done every day. If a few days of trainings are missed, the body loses its form. A day or two of extra hard training does not make up for all the losses and will lead to injury and illness due to lack of rest. More training load creates extra physical stress, which calls for more recovery time. The body makes its adaptation to stress when the body is at rest rather than during stress. This is very important. The body makes the adaptation of absorbing the stress while the body is in rest, not while you are training. This is a part of overloading. Peak performance can only be achieved after a moderate, number 1, consistent, number 2, moderate increase and consistent increase in training load, followed by sufficient rest. Fluid breaks means drinking water or other glucose drinks should be offered at least every 45 minutes, and sportsperson or athletes should be entitled to unrestricted amounts of fluid to help prevent dehydration from heat or other heat related injuries. Then comes number 7 point, supervision of coach or teacher. A coach or teacher is a person who imparts, means provides, his or her knowledge to those who wish to learn and benefit from his or her expertise, from his or her experience. Coach enables the athlete or trainee to achieve higher level of performance to a degree that may not be possible if left to his or her own endeavor. So if an athlete is alone he or she is trying to achieve, it is not always possible, because self-motivation is something where experienced athletes might have, but a coach is always there for extra push. The wise coach develops not only the fullest physical potential of the trainee, but also develop those capacities and habits of mind and body which will enrich and enable their later years. Also, mental growth also the coach looks after. Sportsperson or athletes should be supervised by a coach or teacher for prevention of injury. Why? Because coach or teacher, number 1, coach or teacher has the competency, that means the expertise, particularly in his or her game and some other games too. So he or she is able to analyze the movement of athletes or sportspersons efficiently. Efficient movement of trainee can help in prevention of injuries. So number 1 is a coach is a teacher who is competent not only on that athlete's particular game, on other games also. So the coach helps the athlete or the sports person efficiently to analyze the movement. So if the proper movement is analyzed, it will help the prevention of injuries. Number 2, a coach or a teacher is a better planner. He or she can plan the trainees' training programs wisely, which will be helpful for prevention of injuries. Number 3, a coach or teacher are the fountains of knowledge. They are equipped with latest trends, developments, and constraints. That means the backcomings in a particular sports. He or she is an advisor, number 1, counselor, number 2, demonstrator, number 3, friend, number 4, fact finder, number 5, facilitator, number 6, mentor, number 7, motivator, number 8, and evaluator. Number 9, coach's latest knowledge for injury prevention, accompanied by the attitude of concern for the safety of the trainee, helps the trainee to prevent injury. So the coach motivates, facilitates, it demonstrates, acts like a friend, and guides the trainee, which helps the trainee to prevent injuries. Presence of the coach gives the trainee confidence and motivation for practice. This is very important. It also ensures that trainees are behaving in a disciplined manner. The coach should be present at all practice times of the training. In the event that coach cannot be present, a proper fill-in, that means some other person, whether be it an assistant coach or a substitute coach or a qualified parent, should always be there in his or her place. Now, next is the coach ensures that the athlete are well hydrated and properly functioning and have proper functioning safety equipment. If an injury occurs, accurate record should be kept, emergency plans should be there, and lastly, coach adheres to physician orders concerning on any of his or her athletes when the athlete comes for practice after recovering from an injury or during the time when the athlete is injured. So a coach listens to the doctor's advice if the athlete is injured or if the athlete comes back from an injury. Now comes proper training of skill and technique. It also helps to prevent injury. How? Skill is a learned response in relation to an object or situation involving perceptual, cognitive, and motor mechanism. What does it mean? Skill is a response regarding a situation. And how it comes? It comes from perception, cognitive and motor mechanism, mental and physical mechanism. A skill is a practiced ability. Very, very important. It comes from practice. A technique is the specific way you do something. The term technique means a way of carrying out a particular task, especially in the execution of the artistic work or a scientific procedure. In sports, technique is defined as a motor procedure adapted to cope with a motor task. When athletes are using the proper skill and techniques, the performance will increase and they will be less prone to injuries. In every sport, there is a correct way and a wrong way of doing things. For example, football players should be taught the proper way to tackle an opponent to avoid an injury, and baseball players should be taught the proper way to throw. Whether it is training techniques that is used by the athletes for a variety of sports or a techniques specific to a certain sport, such as serving the ball in tennis or dribbling the ball in basketball, all coaches need to be sure that their athletes have been instructed on proper skill and techniques during the training. So what does it mean? It means the athlete should have the proper training skill and training techniques on a specific game or specific sports which that particular athlete is pursuing. So the more knowledgeable you are as an athlete, chances are that you will have less injury. Safe facilities. Facilities refer to the venues and surroundings where the activity takes place. This can include the pool facilities during swim meet or the facility of goal post during the football game. Facilities need to be safe both for athletes and spectators. Bathroom should work and running water should be available. For games played inside the court, enough room should be needed to slow down to prevent the athletes from running onto the brick wall. Safe grounds, equipment and facilities should keep the athletes safe to promote their well-being. Athletes have a right to play in safe facilities and if injured, to be treated in a clean and appropriate environmental environment dedicated to the purpose. If an athlete is injured, proper facilities should be there in a clean and appropriate environment. Making sports facilities safe for young athletes, it is of utmost importance to make sports safe for young. It is very important to form a risk management standpoint and an integral component of effective sports management. The failure of an educational institution to provide safe facilities and maintain their safety through regular inspections of facilities not only increases the risk of injury but unnecessarily exposes them to lawsuits which deplete the organization's financial resource and fosters a negative image to the public about the organization and sports in general. So, what does it mean? It means that whatever facilities an organization is providing, a sports organization is providing for the athletes should be safe, should be foolproof, and even if an athlete is injured, wherever the athlete is taken to treat the injury, that place should be clean and tidy, and a team should be there to look after the safety of the facilities provided to the athletes. So with this, we come to the end of chapter 8, which is the prevention of injuries. Thank you so much.